Hello, I am Scott Hebner, the Principal Analyst for AI here at SiliconANGLE Media in theCUBE Research, and thank you for tuning in today. We here at SiliconANGLE in theCUBE Research are so excited to be hosting on April 16th an industry-unique digital summit dedicated to exploring best practices in building AI agents and agentic systems and helping organizational leaders speed their way to ROI and competitive differentiation. Today, we'll preview one of the summit sponsors, AgilePoint. They're an industry pioneer that is applying new innovations to help organizations operationalize enterprise-scale, multi-vendor agentic workflows involving both human and digital workers. AgilePoint gives you the mature capabilities needed to create resilient operations within your organization. And I had the opportunity, along with my colleague, George Gilbert, here at theCUBE Research to get a deep dive 45-minute demonstration of their solution. And let me tell you, it's quite impressive. And you'll learn more about that at the actual summit. But with that, I'm so happy to have Jesse Shiah, the co-founder and CEO of AgilePoint, join us to preview what you'll learn from the summit from them and discuss these mature capabilities I mentioned that can really be applied today to help you create highly resilient AI-guided operations. So Jesse, thanks so much for taking the time to be here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. Really glad to have this opportunity.
Yeah, I'm so glad we met up. I think it's been a couple months now, hasn't it? The power of LinkedIn, and we've been spending a lot of time together. And you got a really impressive group of people there, and impressive set of solutions. And you've always impressed me with how customer centric you are. It's always about the customer and what they're trying to do. So this is going to be a great learning experience for everyone at the summit, and looking forward to having you there.
Thank you. And I have to say that really enjoyed following the research you and George working on the agentic AI space, and also on the in general, right? I know George also get into more like this architectural software engineering innovation needed, right, to really be able to take agentic AI into operations, right? So we frequently highlight your research, during our company meetings.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, George and I are two sides of the same coin, right? We certainly have different points of, let's say, expertise and knowledge, but together, we work all the time together, and I think we're learning a lot from each other. So I appreciate the feedback on that. So Jesse, tell us a little bit more about your journey, from creating AgilePoint to where you are today. Just give us a little bit of a overview for people that may not be familiar with AgilePoint.
Okay. And as a matter of fact, right, I know that, like you say, I think you and George probably just learned about AgilePoint, 4 or 5 months ago, right? But however, we have been actually been around since 2003. However, and so this has been an amazing journey, right? The vision of agentic AI, especially when it comes to how agentic can drive the business operations, end-to-end operations and automations. Actually, that's actually what we created AgilePoint back in 2003. That was part of what we architected, with that vision in mind. And part of that was influenced by my graduate study, was related to hard real-time systems. That's my advisor's main focus. And that means that you're running some mission-critical hard real-time systems, right? Either, for industrial, for telecom, for military, for space, all these mission-critical systems, right? But you can run into unexpected events. And but how does a system can adapt to that, right? Almost like you have to talk about self-healing, right, to some extent. So part of my research was about, okay, can you use the AI to decide what to change on the system? But however, it's so mission-critical, right? Almost like you are changing the software systems, but one of the key criteria was cannot involve code changes. So that means that no new code can be generated, no existing code can be changed. In order to ensure the trust of the the assurance, right? So that was actually how we got started with the mindset. And then, so we actually built we built a company, a startup company, and was being adopted by what I would call Global 100. Those are the largest companies across the globe, and they build those mission-critical industrial control systems and everything, emergency command control systems, and they OEM our technology as part of their system. So we sold the company in 1999. That's when I had the opportunity to come to Silicon Valley in 2000. And 6 months later, I saw the dot-com crash.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I went to a lot of gatherings after work. And then I heard a lot of ex-CXOs were talking about, one thing really hit me was that they say, we invest in a lot of technology, right? ERP, supply chain management, CRM, content management systems, tons of them. They say, we thought we invest in so much technology, we should get agility and resiliency. Of course, at that time, because of .com, the key was about supply chain agility and resiliency, right? So that really knocked me awake, right? I say, wow, people don't understand. If you create application by code, you actually started chipping away agility, and you're never going to get resiliency. And that's really when we actually did the research, when we work, we realized that you must apply abstraction. Okay, programming is an abstraction, but that's not enough. We need to take abstraction all the way into the business domain, right? So it's a tier abstraction, right? And we call it holistic abstraction. Okay, and then using that as a way to bring in the model-driven architecture, right? So that really simplify the design, simplify the execution. But in making that, when you go to execution, there's actually no code generated, no compilation needed. Okay, so this is actually how we have, so that's why when we founded AgilePoint, after I saw the dot-com crash, I say, wow, so our know-how is an opportunity in the business computing domain. So that's why we founded AgilePoint. We knew we were going to be so ahead of the market because this holistic abstraction will simplify so much complexity.
Yeah. Well, I think you're hitting on one of the challenges that I've seen in my 30 plus years in the industry. Almost every technology transformation is people spend so much time creating a solution, whether it be a data warehouse, a data lake, whether it be an old client server, even some of the cloud new, as a service apps. You code it, and by the time you get it out there, you're like, things have changed around you. And what's great, and that actually is happening with generative AI and LLMs, is they encode what we know about the past to help you predict the future, but they don't adapt with changing conditions, and that's the power, I think, of these AI agents and agentic systems, which you're helping to automate and abstract the complexity out of, so people can, mere mortals can go off and do this, and they can adapt it. I think it's a powerful combination, and I think you're onto the right value prop, which is, it's all about the resiliency and the adaptability, because one thing about business and about the world is it's always changing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was funny, right? I mean, so after we created, so when we started building AgilePoint, and we were eyeing that, we say, this is built for one day. If AI is here, AI gonna need to be able to adapt the running applications, but without touching code, without changing code. Because if you change code, you start impacting the trust, right? And so we say, okay, how can you get to that level, right? So this architecture, what we call, is almost like the architecturally ubiquitous no code, in a way, to make this possible. And the other thing is, and I think, right, even today, so what we are seeing is, in the whole AI community right now, and I think a lot of this AI development just started 5 to 7 years ago, and really, right, it really needs a new technology foundation to really enable that AI being, I mean, the opportunity with AI is it can discover things that we cannot by human. right? But when you discover that, how can, to really realize the opportunity, just like LLM can discover things, but now its problem is bridging into actions, right? And the bridging into actions in the enterprise, for example, is our actual business operations. And that is actually, and the business operations is now one system, right? The most valuable value creation business operations, that end-to-end orchestration and automation that cut across multiple different functional areas. So that is really where that things become even more complex, right? And so what we are seeing right now is, like, I think like what you just mentioned, like in the data warehouse, in almost every technology until today, we have been able to just using the traditional deterministic coding paradigm to do something and deliver something. But the AI really, right? The AI, especially when it comes to agentic AI now, and arguably, right? I tell people that I say, we're gonna touch on the ROI challenges and in the AI space as well. But if you really want to overcome the ROI challenges in the AI for AI initiative, right? I would say the number one, the top prime candidates is be able to operationalize agentic AI for your end-to-end business orchestration, because those are, I will always tell people that those may be 20% of, in terms of the number of the application, maybe only 20% of your business in your company, but they drive 80% of the business outcomes. Mm-hmm. Right? So you are able to operationalize on those end-to-end orchestrations. That's gonna almost like you spend $1 now, you can get $10 return, versus now we're spending $10, we are not getting $1 return right now. And that's why a lot of AI ROI challenges today.
Yeah. And one of the things that George and I love about what you guys are doing is you've moved up the value stack, meaning that you can wire together into agentic workflows and you can orchestrate AI agents that were either built in-house, they could be acquired in the open marketplace, right? You're very open in terms of what agents your coworkers, right, that are being wired into these agentic workflows. And so you don't have to build it and deploy it in the same agentic framework. You can take in from
absolutely
developing as a big marketplace of pre-built agents that are specialized. People are going to buy them, customize them, and plug them into things like what you're delivering. And I just think that's an incredibly strong value prop, because like you just said, you're moving up the value stack, right? You're say spend 1, get 10, where if I'm just building agents, maybe I'm spending 3, but I still have to get value of those agents by putting them into a workflow. And you've elevated that, and I think that's really pretty cool.
Absolutely. And I think about 2 months ago, right? Microsoft CEO Nadella had a podcast. He mentioned about eventually all the business logic is gonna go to AI agents, right? But AI agent not gonna be able to differentiate. Oh, I'm dealing with this system right now. I need to work in this way. I'm dealing with another system now. I need to work another way, right? I mean, so I think that's where I think George has, in George's podcast, right? He talked about the importance of harmonization across the tech stacks, right? And as a matter of fact, right, when I talk about holistic abstraction, that's almost like a given, right? Because I think today our business, business operations has suffered, right, by a lot of the siloed. The platforms are operating as silos, right? You go to a company, the Salesforce platform has got a Salesforce developer team, and they know how to create application in Salesforce. SAP, the same thing. You maybe go to HR, you go to your ITSM, but the thing is, they say, okay, now we need to create that end-to-end, then they're just passing data between the platforms. But now back to what we were talking about, Nadella say, oh, the business logic need to go to AI agents. Business logic, that's not data, right? Because when you want to get to closed loop optimization, it's about agentic is about goal-driven, right? The goal-driven means decision makings as well, right? And the decision making is all about business logic many times. So of course, data may drive that, but however, it's actual being able to make that business, that decision change, the business logic changes. And we just talked about the most important, right? I mean, I would say that anybody want to make your CEO and board really happy about your AI initiative right now is show that you are able to really make one of the end-to-end business orchestration that drive key business KPIs and make it agentic capable, right? Because even before agentic, I always tell people that I think in the market, in the automation market, there's been a term called hyper automation. That's only about automating as much as many as possible. But they are different automation use cases. You're gonna use different automation tool like RPA, or maybe use a workflow, use a look. But the thing you actually build, you're just gonna build a sprawl of unrelated automation applications.
Yeah, another layer of those. Yeah.
And I always tell people that I say you can build as many of those automations as possible, but CEO may not notice that. But if you build one end-to-end orchestrations, they will very quickly notice that, because each of that drive a key business KPIs. And that's also one of the biggest challenge that we have been hearing from a lot of digital transformation leaders, always about we spend a lot in digital transformation, but we are not meeting the business objectives. But many times they found out is they're building a lot of silo automations, but they're lacking the end-to-end orchestration. And just because the nature of the platform silos. But when it comes to AI agents, as you mentioned, same thing, right? We cannot have the agent a specific only for a platform. How do we be able to bring them to work together? It was actually very interesting, right? Just about 3 days ago, we had a session last week, and we had a session with one of the global SIs. And this is a project leader, and they focus on, for example, IBM systems. And he mentioned one examples, right? Because we were talking about what this can do. And I think this is a perfect, really, really intriguing, right? He said, if I have a SharePoint workflow, let me verify. If I have a SharePoint workflow, okay, and I want to add agent to it, but I want to add IBM agent. First thing I have to do is I have to migrate the SharePoint workflow to be IBM based before I can do that. Yeah. Right. So say with AgilePoint, are you saying that with AgilePoint, you don't have to do that? I say no. Right. You can keep your SharePoint workflow. I can bring IBM agent, I can bring another agent. Right? Because that layer holistic abstraction, right? Holistic abstraction, so that enables, instead of plugging, boil down the agent into the application directly, into automation directly, you have a separate layer, right? And that's where the value, right? I mean, the separate layer is where you have a clean separation, and then that's where you can govern, right? That's also where you can democratize, right? The business can go through this layer now. They don't have to learn about AI in order for the company to feel comfortable to start adopting AI. How many times I heard executives saying that we cannot afford to train all the business users on AI, so the adoption of that into real operation will get delayed. We say, why that has to be the case? But when you actually insert AI directly into your operations, maybe like your business process and things, you put that right in front of the face of the business, well, then you need to do that. But that's why we talk about the beauty of abstraction, right? So not only you do holistic, you have a layer. So that's a separate layer of AI. We call it AI control tower layer, right? The framework. We actually developed that back in 2017. When we started seeing the AI, the open AI started doing something, I would say, oh, we've been waiting, right? Look at the market started moving the direction now. So we actually created an AI control tower framework layer back in 2017.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into that. But you hit on some really key points here, right? I mean, in the end, a business is being driven by people. People operate off of metrics and how they're going to get paid. And whatever they do rarely is so siloed from a business perspective. They always have to work with other parts of the organization. And rarely do you see these processes, if you will. They work within a process to, achieve their goals. The process is multifunctional.
Exactly.
And you need to wire this all together to work across all that. And to do that, we've been using the word harmonization layer, but it's really about semantics, context, meaning of how the data relates to each other, so that it's not just data, like you said, it's semantical understanding and knowledge, which over time is going to evolve into reasoning. And this is really going to get super powerful. So,
Absolutely.
so
Yep.
let me tell you, just and another aspect of what I like what you're doing is the closed loop stuff. And as a longtime marketing guy, I love the value prop that you have on this on your website. It's so cleanly stated with a clear differentiation. I think it's really hard hitting. And so let's kind of bring up that graphic here with the statement on it. Could you just give us a little insight into what this really means? I think I get it, but I want to hear your explanation of it.
Well, I mean, closed loop optimization, right, is really the key critical capabilities to really realize the vision of autonomous business. Right. So, but what that means is, if you have, say you have a process, you have an end-to-end orchestration, and we are talking about not only each of them could actually be able to continuously self-improving, right? And of course, when we say that, that takes a lot. What we talk about, to be honest, I mean, what we believe, right, is not just what we are creating agent and with LLMs can give us some answers, but it's about bridging into actions, right? So if you are not able to enable that, you actually realize the action in a way that can be trusted, that can enhance the trust. You'll never get to closed loop optimization because you will not be able to adapt that, right? You will not be able to put that into your operations, right? That's what we're saying is, in AgilePoint, right? Because it's holistic abstraction from your infrastructure, right? Across your existing, tech stacks, and we harmonize that. And when we harmonize a different system, right? Today we have done that for more than 120 systems already, right? The popular system being adopted in enterprise today. So when we say we harmonize that, we actually abstracted the data and also the business logic and the capabilities into a unified language. Well, basically, with this abstraction, we enable your IT stacks or your tech stack that can speak one language, but the one language that coherent semantics, okay, describes metadata, right? But that really enable one thing very important, I think, for agentic, right? So I actually talked to our team, right? I say, yeah, we always talk about this integration page, right? On the website, talk about integrations. I say, what we do is really more than just integration, right? Because for agentic, integration tend to be just data integration, exchanging data. What we talk about is interoperability. It's interoperability now across systems, right? But how do you enable? And that's when agent can change the business logic in a way. But how do you enable it? But the thing is, how can you change that? In a very interesting conversation with another analyst, right? Just about a couple of weeks ago, and when we were talking about what we want to do, and he said, "Yeah, I know what I probably know what you're doing. You have an agent, you have a code behind it, and then you have some kind of containers, and then you just based on that you dynamic generating code." So the first question, the first reaction I had was, "Who can trust that? Who can trust that dynamic generated code and go to execution, right? Which enterprise can trust that?" And I think that's also why 90%, up to 90% of the AI POC never going into production.
Right. It's a trust issue. Yeah.
Never going into production. The other thing is, okay, you rely on ALM to generate the code. Is the ALM going to generate the same code each time? Right. So what we are saying is what we do is this abstraction, right? So with this holistic abstraction, the agent, when they want to change, they actually change the metadata. But the model-driven engine that AgilePoint provides, be able to read the metadata change, can dynamically invoke your IT systems, right, and realize that. So that's what we talk about again, right? Back to the research, I say that's why we have the benefit to really think about this so early, 20 years ago, and that's why we architected from day one with this mindset. We say one day it will be here, but however, right, before AI was here, we say this architecture really gonna democratize democratize because it just simplifies. So I simplifies, reduce the complexity, it enable the business to work at same thing, right? The business can model, can change, they all work at the metadata layer, right? And so they never have to deal with the complexity of underlying systems. And this also enables that we also got a really, sometimes we got a question, right? They say, well, people think about the data harmonization, they think about like you have a data, warehouse or data lake kind of platform. We say, that's that's only the data for your analytics. We are talking about AgilePoint, right? Is abstracting the data for that context, the business context, right? So that's really where the real AI ready data needed to train agents so that you enhance the trust of the agent can make decisions for you. If they are not trained by your business context, but the business context, the most important thing is that end-to-end, right? The end-to-end business context. But the end-to-end business context is supported by multiple different systems. But if you're not enabling every system to speak the same language, you're never going to capture that end-to-end business context in one language, right? So I think that's really where that's really what the foundation, right? To enable this closed loop optimization. Because with that now, then I can trust my agent making decisions, and then whatever the decision they make can go back and retrain the AI agent again.
What the industry has been talking about, this notion of composable enterprises and composable business models, and micro processes and things that you can always assemble and quickly adapt. And I think with agentic AI and the evolution from Gen AI agent, to actually agents that can help you plan, can help you make decisions, that can help you problem solve and know how to autonomously work with others, including humans, you start to get to the point where this can be a reality. And I do like, to me, you have like actually 3 layers of abstraction. You're going to help abstract the technology. You're helping to abstract the business semantics so that they can work together and understanding all that. And then, and this goes to my research that I've been doing, which shows about a 50-50 mix of organizations that either want to build their own AI agents or acquire and customize pre-built agents, right? I think you're very well positioned to support that level of abstraction too. And, you're bringing to life the value of this notion of an, HR department of digital coworker agents, that whether you build that talent in-house or whether you hire those agents externally, you can wire all that stuff together to meet your business semantics. I mean, it's just, there's a lot to unpack that makes it a very powerful concept, right? And again, that's agentic AI.
Yeah. So what we believe in is technology should become pluggable because it changes so fast, especially with, in the age of AI now. We already seeing how fast things are changing, right? So so when we talk about this holistic abstraction and then we talk about model driven, and really, right, to bring them all together is the composable architecture, right? And and one thing we do, right, just because we start from day one, our vision is about how do we help organizations to leverage technology they adopted, but how can I bring them together to create application and solution that deliver their business objective, but along the way it simplified it, right? In a simplified way, and also reduce creating technical debts.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, it will actually naturally, the application created, right, in this in this abstracted, it will become future-proof, right? And then that also means that it's more agile, it's more resilient. So I know that sometimes when I talk to some IT leaders, they say, how can this be possible? You're talking about it will be easier and faster, and you actually reduce all these burdens and everything. I say it's so hard to describe that in this current deterministic coding paradigm. You have to think of, it's a different paradigm of building applications. And like you say, humbly speaking, right? I would say that for AI to take its maximum potential, we need this kind of completely abstracted, dynamic, new foundation. When I call a new foundation, we actually started out building it 20 years ago, right?
Let's briefly talk a little bit about the AgilePoint AI Control Tower framework, and we're going to get into this in a lot more detail and show a demo most likely, right, at the
Yes,
actual summit. But why don't we bring up that chart and just why don't you briefly just kind of touch on, I think there's 4 key attributes
yes.
to the control tower, and again, we'll go into this much deeper at the summit, but tell us about this.
Okay, great. I mean, so on the top, right? On the top, we'll go from the top to the goal. The goal is closed loop optimization, right? So the first one on the top, platform agnostic composability. So we touch a number of different things. So that means that we have this, so this abstraction harmonization across the tech stacks, right? So this abstraction harmonization is not specific to a specific platform. Like you can go to some major platforms vendors, right? They will say, oh, we have abstraction, we have composability, but usually limited to the platform. So we want to make sure that you build it in a way, right? You build it in a way that really is about, as a business, I don't care what technology I have, and I can actually replace them, right? But if I create application now, I'm leveraging those tech stack right now, but if I have to replace them, it will not disrupt my whole applications. You will just actually plug something out and plug something new, I mean, a new system in, right? So the first one, right, so that enable that holistic abstraction and harmonization, and then enable, and it's cross-platform. So it's platform agnostic, right? And the composability, the composable architecture enables to create that, what I just mentioned at the beginning, the most valuable business application in the company today is that end-to-end orchestrations that drive a business KPIs, right? That could be your customer onboarding, right? That could be your customer issue resolution, right? That could be your new product development. Okay, so that will always cut across multiple different departments, right? So that's the first one, right? So if you are able to build application this way, I'm still using my Salesforce, using my SAP, using my other systems, but this application now can be built in a way that what we call resilient automation. So almost I'm preparing, right? Preparing every automation or orchestration you build based on this architecture is agentic ready, basically. Means that, so before agentic AI is here, is our customer found out that is an exception resistant. Means that when you run to exception, it can respond to exceptions and dynamically, right? Because applications can still run, but now that exception resistant is really the same. It's the same capability that you make it that. So every automation you build is resilient, right? When I say resilient means that agent can adapt those operations, the automation orchestrations. But what we talked about earlier is this: it can adapt that at runtime in real time, but there's no one single line of code being generated. There's no one single line of code being changed, right? So that with that now, so our customer, right? Even before our customer, they started our first 5 customers at 2006 was global enterprises. They are the visionary company. They recognize what we are building, and they adopted us when we only have 3 people in the company, right? So when they actually get to, so all this customer over the year, even as every application they built in 2006, they already have that platform agnostic of composability and also that resilient automation as a foundation. So what that means is they have the foundation to go to agentic now directly.
Yeah, this is a fascinating conversation. There's just so much potential. And again, as I've been preaching on my, on my podcast, from what I've been learning to dozens and dozens of companies I've been talking to, including you, is that these innovations are moving at warp speed. The game's played on the field, as Erwin Wadowski-Berger said from IBM, and not in the dugout. So you got to keep up with this stuff. And, what you're delivering is just, another leap in the innovation that's coming. So this is awesome. So look, Jesse, it's time for us to wrap up here, but thank you so much for being here. We are definitely going to dive deeper into the control tower and actually bring it to life and show what it can actually do
Yes.
at the summit. So make sure you all get there. And I really appreciate, again, you taking the time to do this video, and then, of course, to be a part of the summit. For all of you, please make sure you visit AgilePoint.com to learn more. In the meantime, there's some really great content out there you'll learn from, and get a little bit up to date before our session. And also, you can reach out to Jesse on LinkedIn or on the AI Builder Summit portal, which is on the TheCUBE.net website. And finally, don't forget the summit on April 16th. And as we've been pointing out here, we'll be exploring, with the help of AgilePoint and many others, the key success factors in building AI agents and agentic systems. And that includes how to deploy domain-specific knowledge, the semantics that Jesse was talking about, infuse explainability, AI decision intelligence, and reasoning into these agents, and building customized and integrated, how you take those customized and pre-integrated agents and turn them into workflows. And that's really about wiring up all these agentic workflows. But most importantly, and you touched on this, Jesse, is the theme of the summit is anchored in achieving trust in AI outcomes. Trust is now the currency of innovation. No trust, no ROI. So
Absolutely.
visit thecube.net to add the summit to your calendar, and we'll all see you at the summit. Bye for now.